Commissioner Rosa, Commissioner Pyle.
Oh, I haven't. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the brick building?
Yeah.
We just did some more. We did the upstairs.
Yo,
Come here, look.
that's where I am. Hopefully you'll like the work.
Okay, the time is 5:33. We'll call the meeting to order. The first thing on the agenda, we have Mongolia here, and we'll discuss that.
Well, we want to do the communications first, so we just put that out there.
Okay.
Okay, so on February 16th, we received a letter from the Water Department where they had pulled their agreement off the table. And there was first a lot of back and forth between the fire commissioners and the water commissioners, and the end result was that they stood by their agreement, that their decision to, what was the offer? They withdrew the offer and increased the amount they wanted. Okay. So that's,
Is that, we have a meeting?
you received an email with all of the information. The original agreement was for $125,988.38. The budget committee zero funded the line. You put in a warrant article to cover that. And then the water district sent us a letter withdrawing their offer. And that one was,
That was on February 16th.
yes, on February 16th. And that letter, they sent it with the rate study that they had done, and they were increasing our quarterly rate per hydrant to $493.73 for a total of 99 hydrants instead of 69 hydrants, which made the quarterly payment $48,879.27 for an annual amount of $195,517.08. So they said it was and then the rate will increase 4% per year for the next 3 years. So that's what they're offering is an 8% increase over what we were paying last year. So then you had the chief send them the revised agreement that Attorney Fitzgerald had written, which had the escape clause in it, and they emailed back they were standing by their decision to withdraw the offer. And that's all the correspondence.
So I guess where do we stand from here? I mean,
So their intent, it seems to me, looking at the letters, that they're just going to start sending us bills quarterly for a certain amount. Are we obligated to pay those bills?
It's time now. I have a question. Should this be discussed in non-public or in public session?
Probably non-public. If it's going to concern strategy or
Legal advice, yes,
Yeah.
is a definite.
That's a definite. You can go into non-public for legal. And it's actually a non-meeting, I guess. Would that be correct?
That's right.
Yes. So, somebody has to make a motion and,
I think before we do that, because we do have some people from the public,
oh, right, Ken.
is it possible to postpone that a little bit, just to make use of their time?
Appreciate that, John.
Yeah.
I
Just
vote in favor of the motion.
just trying to be respectful of their time as well.
I have no problem. I mean,
Okay.
yeah.
And then we'll get to the attorney time as quick as we can too.
We're okay, John? Great.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just here just to make sure that we're all good for the district meeting. I did talk to Kathy. She said we had the cafeteria
Yes.
we
okay.
normally do
Yes.
as well. That means that they're going to set up where they usually for the supervisors with the checklist. There is a little bit of a change for the school district meeting. They're going to put them on the back wall, I think, just for the flow. And they're going to have a place up back where people can sit without a mask. So we thought that that would be better than along the other wall where they usually have. It doesn't sound like we have to do anything different than what we've traditionally done. Have we had any contact from anyone complaining, making demands or anything like that?
No, we have not. I haven't, no one's called the office.
All right, are we're prepared for the 6-foot separation and all that stuff? I mean, you know, we're gonna do our best, and same thing we had last year.
Well, it depends on how many people show up.
Of course, yes.
You know, and if they're couples, they could be closer together,
Same
Yeah.
household.
the same household, so it's just a matter of how many, and then the ones that won't wear a mask, don't want to wear a mask, will have to separate from the ones that will, so,
Yeah, we didn't really do that last time. We were in the gym, there was a lot more room. And there
Right.
was only like 45 people in the meeting.
right, and the ones, all the masked people were sitting on the floor and to the right, and all the ones that weren't wearing masks were in the back on the left.
Most of them. There were a few people in the audience that eventually took their mask off. So it was kind of a mix and match, but I don't know.
Do we still have a governor mandate to wear a mask?
No, I don't believe we do.
You do, but you can't, if people can claim they have a medical condition and you're not allowed to ask them.
Right,
Gotcha. But you're allowed to put them, separate them from, or provide an area?
That's what the Northfield is doing, and Tilton is doing it with their public meetings, and the same with the school district. So
Okay.
it's kind of doing the best you can with what you got.
Oh, I totally understand, I just didn't know.
It's a lesser of the evil than saying you can't come in.
Right.
Because you can't come in is even worse evil that we'll hear all about.
that
Because
would
then
be horrible,
you're
Right.
impacting their voting opportunity.
right. I
Right.
don't foresee an issue with that because of the way the cafetorium is set up. I mean, down by the stage has always been the commissioners,
Commissioners and
the
then-
budget committee,
yeah.
you, and then on the left side, it's like separated. On the left, there's one set of rows, and then on the right, there's another set, and then there's up back. So I don't foresee we'll have much of an issue.
Okay. Right, I don't disagree. I just wanted to ask questions. Now, last year I had a couple of calls, like about an hour and a half before the meeting. That's really all I had. People complaining about holding the meeting anyway. But so far this year I haven't had anybody rattle on my cage. I just, if we do get something, especially if it's not an hour and a half before the meeting, if we get a contact, I'd like to at least just know about it, so that we have the option of calling back. It depends, you know, sometimes it depends on who it is. You know, if it's a very distinguished figure in the community, maybe it's good to at least call them. Like Pat Constantino called me, but it was like an hour before the meeting, and I was running around like a chicken, so I never did call it back.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've seen her since then to bring it up. So, you know, it sounds like we're good. I just wanted to make sure that was the case, and we should take a few minutes to address that. I'm home most of the time. I was in the office today, but so if you need anything, anybody needs anything, I'm pretty much accessible. I don't get out much here, like everybody
Okay.
All right, thank you all.
Thanks, Scott.
All right,
Thanks.
and we'll see you in a couple weeks.
Yes, you will.
Figured this would be a lot quicker.
Definitely.
From tonight.
Now, should we go non-public now and?
Yes, and we have to do a roll call vote, and the reason is for legal consult.
Right.
Then I will make that motion.
Legal counsel or the meeting?
It's a non-meeting, but since we are in session already, I'm going to put it as went out into a legal meeting, and then there won't be, it'll just show that you went out to discuss matters with your attorney, and then you came back in.
Okay.
Okay?
I'll make a motion based on that.
All right.
I'll second it. And we do roll call.
Yes.
John Silly, yes.
All those are yes?
Claire Carter, yes.
It is
5:42.
Oh, yeah. I work with her. I know, there's all kinds of things.
all right.
Because I would say that.
Everything's up and running.
I mean, you're,
So we have to sign back in?
Yes.
I don't district, you might consider.
Okay, we're back at the regular meeting.
okay.
Those present?
John Silly.
Oh, we're up.
Claire Carter. 34.
Thank you.
Correct.
Okay.
That's it.
Yes, I was on.
All right.
Well, public comment.
I think we did that already.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? I know, yeah, I'm just thinking, that's.
Okay, next thing is chief report.
Okay, chief's report is included in your handout. First item under the budget, the 2020 unassigned fund balance is $626,117.
What's that an increase of from last year?
About 30,000? No, more than that. About 60,000?
About 60,000.
About 60,000.
Did we get, I'm sorry, did we get a letter from the auditor? I thought in the past.
They've been in, they've told us verbally what things are, we haven't gotten any.
Okay.
The audit's not finalized, and we won't get that until it is.
We usually have it before the meeting, though, right?
No,
No, okay.
we don't have it until like midsummer.
We can call it the draft fund balance.
No, the fund balance is,
It is what it is.
that is the fund balance, but we won't have any reports from them until midsummer.
All set, Scott?
Yep.
Okay, the total amount in the apparatus and equipment fund through the end of February is $831,006.90. 2021 ambulance revenue through February is $95,303.47. We're 100% through the 2020 budget year, and we expended 97.7% of the voted budget. The 2020 budget books are closed, and there was $33,026.50 in unexpended operating funds.
Nice job.
Because we sat there for a while.
Yeah, we're sweating there for a while. The fire prevention report for February 2021 is also included in the handout, and for the month of February, there were 33 fire prevention inspections. Any questions on that stuff? Moving on. Run report for February 2021 is also included in the handout. We had 131 incidents, which is about average for the month of February. 81 of the incidents were EMS in nature, equating to 62% of our total incident volume for the month. And the engine responded with the ambulance to 35 EMS and MVA incidents last month.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
I'm looking up.
Overlapping and simultaneous incidents, the report's also included. We had 16 overlapping or simultaneous incidents, accounting for 12% of the volume for the month. Of the 16 incidents, we were able to respond to all 16 in one form or another. We received 7 mutual aid ambulance responses. We responded with our ambulance one-time mutual aid. We received 9 mutual aid engine responses, and we responded with our engine one time during the month of February.
You say that that's 9 incidents, it's not like just one major incident?
It could be, it doesn't, I ask it a certain way, and that's how it's supposed to
So
be.
it's a metric, so,
Yeah,
so if you had a structure fire, that 7 could be that one structure fire for the month?
yes, it could be.
Okay.
More likely, it's a few incidents.
Now that we've got 4 guys on the not the overlapping incidents, but the number of mutual aid calls, ambulance, we shouldn't have.
I should expect that to go down quite a bit starting this month.
I would hope it went out quite a lot though, so it does not look like we have. Because if it does, people look at this, like I look at it, if we have the same amount next month or the same amount throughout the year, it has not changed at all because we haven't, people are going to say, why you got another guy?
I understand fully, but
I'm just telling
I
you.
understand your perspective and what that would be the perspective if that were to happen, but I fully expect that.
I'm just telling you from my
Mutual
point
aid
of view.
response, our percentage of mutual aid ambulance use is going to go down dramatically.
Okay, because like I said, when I look at this, if I look at it next month or the month after, and it's still 7 here, 7 there, 8, I'm going to be a little disappointed.
Well, you have to look at the total incident volume for the month too, because like this month, we had 131 incidents. If we have 210 incidents, it still might be set that we use mutual aid ambulance because of the sheer volume, where we ended up with 2 or 3 calls at the same time where we can't handle it. But with a smaller volume, where 131, which is usually, it's kind of like a low point for incident volume, we should be able to handle it much better. We'll see a dramatic improvement. I don't think we'll use a mutual aid ambulance 72 or 82 times this year, whereas last year we did.
Like today, they had, at 12:18, they had, looked like an injury response, another injury response at 12:43, and then at 12:56, they had a medical call. If they're still out on those 2 things, yeah, they're gonna need a mutual aid ambulance.
And I understand that. All I'm saying is, it's got to show something, reduction in something.
Well, and I think the goal, Paul, in 3 years is that we have the ability to keep the people that we've got. And I think we've got to prove it to you and the public that the 4th person is needed, was warranted, and look, here's the stats that prove it. And that's certainly a...
Yes, exactly.
Just so you're aware, Paul, they just started on shift last week. Their first 2 weeks were like in a
And I
review school.
understand, that's why I didn't say anything about this one.
And then, even now that they're on shift, they're still learning how to drive the ambulance. So it's, it's going to be, our goal is hopefully by next week to start to really get into a normal response. But we're just trying to get everybody up to speed.
And I understand, that's why I didn't say too
Okay.
much about this month here, because like I said, I know they knew, they just started. All I'm saying is, it's got to be a reduction. People see that.
I think there's already been, to be honest with you.
If people see that, they're going to say, God, what do we get, it hasn't changed a bit. And that's the way I would look at it. If I looked at this and said, next year you had the same thing, and I understand what you're saying. It hasn't changed from one year to the other. We still got 7 calls, 8 ambulances, mutual aid every month. I'm not looking and saying, God, it didn't change a bit. I never got it.
So I agree with Deputy Druber. In the last week, 2 weeks of operations, I've seen a huge difference in our ability to handle calls.
Question. Operationally, is your goal to eventually on routine to non-extreme medical calls run with 2 personnel? Is that what you're trying to get to operationally? Or are you going to have 3 EMS on an ambulance? You're trying to get to 2. Right, you're trying to do that. Unless it's a severe medical, obviously, then you would staff it and things like that.
Correct.
But your norm routine is what you're trying to get to, is the 2 and 2.
That's correct.
From your operational point of view, what's your intent when the first ambulance goes out? Is the other team going to come over here and get the second ambulance?
No, they'll be at Center Street with the engine, or they'll respond to, if it's an Echo or a Delta, they'll respond to that call with the ambulance. So, and then if there's another call, they can go directly to that call. If we have call people here, or I or the deputy can come and grab this ambulance, meet them at the
Okay.
call, then bring the engine back here.
Okay, so they would go
We have a whole response
plan.
plan in place that
It's floating around here.
yeah, it's probably in the water somewhere. But,
Okay.
but we're looking to see how things flow and make adjustments as
Yep.
needed.
It'll be
It's a
work
new
in progress.
Yeah.
Yep. Just trying to figure it out because right now with our stationary footprint, unfortunately, one ambulance is over here. So when the first do go out and it's midday and you have no call force and deputies out on an inspection on the other side of town and there's no call force, just trying to see that impact because they need to be able to transport. And if they go to a scene with an engine and there's still no call force or you're not able to get here and grab an ambulance, well, Belmont's going to love transporting and charging for that fee even though you stabilize.
Sure.
Yes.
No, we're looking to transport our own calls.
Any chance we can. It's
Yeah.
just, that's why I was just wondering with that response, if they would come over and grab the ambulance or...
I think it's situational.
It's situational. We have to play it by ear on every call on that, but
Yeah.
the idea is for us, we're going to be doing the transport.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Okay, one other question. The paramedics, we got 4, you said? 4, 5?
It's 5 right now.
5, okay. By having all these on here, I would hope that we don't subsidize some of the other towns every time they need one. And I know it's part of mutual aid, we should do that. But there was a time back years ago where we used to get charged $150. And they did that for years until things turned around and we got more than they did. Then they didn't want to stop it. And I just don't want that to happen again.
Sure, I don't see that happening. The reason that paramedic fees stopped for mutual aid to Franklin and stuff, Lakes Region Mutual Fire Aid came up with a bylaw within Lakes Region Mutual Fire Aid that you cannot charge member communities for paramedic intercepts or other mutual aid, even forest fire stuff.
Okay.
If Concord calls us for a paramedic, we can charge Concord, or the other way around, they can charge us if we use one of theirs. But for anything in Lakes, Belmont, Franklin, Sanberton, if we have to use one of their paramedics, they're not going to charge us. If they use ours, we're not going to charge them. That's part of the Lakes Region Mutual Aid Fire.
But all I'm saying is, at one time there, we didn't have any, and we were using all the other ones. And I think something was said at one time there that we kind of subsidized off other departments because of that. And I don't want that to happen to us.
It won't happen.
I mean, we paid for all these guys, the community paid for all these guys to be here. They should be here when we need them.
And that's how it is now.
Okay.
Moving on. The apparatus, engine 1 had the shift PTO switch. They had to be rebuilt, remanufactured. They didn't have parts. They had to reconfigure it. But that's fixed now. And of course, we have the warrant articles to purchase a new engine and a new ambulance.
Is that the best deal you could get for an ambulance? Because I know we talked about the cookie cutter, and I know you'd like to match the existing, the one we're keeping, so that it's ideal.
It went, the spec went out to bid. And that was the winning bid. Now, that's not including trade of this one,
Oh, okay.
which, you're not gonna get a lot of money for it. You never do, because, it's gonna be around 100,000 miles on it by the time we trade it in, or worse. And everybody that buys these things on trade-in, or takes them on trade-in, they know the problems that are with the chassis already. So, we're not telling them, they already know. They say, is that the G450? Yeah, oh, that's the one with the depth problem. Oh, you know about that. Yeah, the front ends don't last. Yeah, okay, yeah, you know about that too, okay. So, moving on. COVID-19, nothing's changed since last month, other than everybody that's going to get vaccinated has been vaccinated within the fire department, the members of the fire department. and we have no non-protected exposures. Now that everybody that wasn't inoculated has the full protection of those inoculations. It's past the 2-week period of their last inoculation.
Now that the vaccines are starting to roll out and things like that, are you seeing less COVID-related calls, or are you?
Yes, in fact, the number of COVID cases within the fire district, I get an email every day of who the state says has COVID, and the list has gone from this to this. Center Street, everything's been done at Center Street, so that's all set. Park Street, we already talked about the bathroom being put off till after district meeting. Fire department radio system, the zoning board of adjustment is done for the special exemption. It was supposed to be, the next meeting was supposed to be yesterday, but it got pushed off to April for the application for the site plan approval. I talked to you about the Mylar thing, and that's currently being done.
For the footprint out here that we have to do the obligation, okay.
Moving on to personnel, Travis Gosine, Zach Marcoux, Ryan Pulo, and Theo Covington have completed their orientation, and they're all assigned to shifts right now, so that they're all coming up to speed so that they can operate in the manner that we wish to operate, hopefully within a week or two.
Was Mark Fu part of our call staff?
No, it goes on.
No, I know he was, but at least.
The others have gone.
Zach Millett.
Oh, you might be thinking of Jamie Weatherby.
I don't think Mark Fu had a weather.
She used to be Marcoux
Oh, all right.
before she got married. That may be why.
Maybe just the last name is familiar. But then we have Zach Millett.
Right.
Sorry.
Okay.
Fire station stuff, as you know, there's a warrant article for $100,000 for engineering and design, and another warrant article for $5,000 to purchase the additional land at Park Street here. Currently working on new dry hydrant and water cistern locations. Driving the town, looking at spots. I have a bunch of locations in mind. To actually construct these things, we may have to get easements and agreements and stuff, and that's all going to take some legal, we need a lawyer to do some of that stuff. So there'll be some costs there to get, and my goal would be like to do like one cistern or one hydrant a year, and just keep expanding. And there's many areas in Northfield and Tilton that could use additional water sources because they're so far away from the hydrant districts that it can only help us.
Question or two on that.
Sure.
So cisterns, what's a average cistern? 10,000, 5,000?
30,000 gallons.
30,000?
Yeah.
30,000 gallons. Ballpark.
Any,
A generic one where you don't have to blast through any granite or anything like that, so you're able to dig it out and drop the bolt in and that. What would you think?
depending upon the site conditions, 75 to 95,000.
Okay. And then the next question is, okay, so if you had a good dry hydrant and you have your upright and then you 20 to 30 feet to get to the, and then a filter basket, what would that?
Dry hydrants are in the $7,000 to $8,000
Some
range.
of 8,000 as long as the water sources. Okay. Thank you.
Like up on the fire, that's a dry hydrant, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Now, do we have in place a policy, installation, maintenance, who's responsible for these cisterns and dry hydrants, as either we put them in ourselves or require them to be put in?
So if the cistern is on private property, covering private property, they're responsible for the maintenance of the cistern.
Accessibility maintenance.
Yeah,
if they're required to put it in for us,
Right.
yeah.
because they don't have adequate waters.
But if it's a cistern that we decide to put in, we'll be fully responsible for.
I mean, because we have had the ones in the past that we've required, and we pulled the top off one day and went, ooh. Well, let's get a hold of people that, hey, talk to the contractor, I ain't coming back here, they owe me $200,000, you can kiss my butt, you know. And now we got a cistern, it's empty.
Right.
And nobody putting a hand up to take care of it, though it was a requirement for the, you know, the village or the area that it was, and it just, we lacked something that said, who's responsible?
So that's one of the things that we would have an agreement with
Right.
easements and stuff like that. And that's one of the reasons that we will have a
Yeah.
lawyer on board for a lot of this to make sure that whatever we put in place is legal and binding.
Well, and I think it's important to get to that
Yeah.
point, chief, because like I say, when you pull the top on the Tnfd, ain't nobody around wants to talk.
Yeah,
All the
that's,
topping's full of oil,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
in the same system you're talking about.
it's the same one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Really?
yes.
How'd that get in there?
I think someone changed the oil and dumped it in there.
Okay.
They want to help the fires along.
Okay.
All right, moving along, I'm still working on the Safer Grant implementation, talking with them today, getting information on, we're going to start requesting reimbursement for expenses on Safer. My plan is to do it monthly, although that's open to discussion right now. I'm waiting for some answers from FEMA. They may want us to do it quarterly. I'm trying to work that out right now, going back and forth with emails and stuff. Doing the COVID-19 grants, as you know, we were awarded another grant, COVID-19 grant, the AFG Supplemental 2 for $1,938.78. And I put in the request, so this is a reimbursement for money we already spent. So I have all the documentation, I sent them all the documentation, I said, just send us the money, and it'll go into the unreserved fund balance, the general fund, and it's just
And
unanticipated revenue.
That's technically money that's spent in.
Right, it's spent in 2020.
Yeah. So if we'd gotten it last year, we could have used it to offset those expenses, but it's just going to be unexpected revenue this year. Also, the 2020 AFG grant, I submitted a regional training grant to improve the training facility out here, and it's with Franklin. So if we were spending the share, the 5% share for us would be split evenly between Tilton and Franklin, which is like, I think it come out to like $2,000 or in that area there, depending upon what they award us.
You may have to eventually get an old tanker car and hook it up to an air compressor.
It does include a water supply.
This does include a water supply,
It's
well, something of that sort.
Okay.
Again, working on call company improvement and the capital improvement program, of which you guys are very familiar with. And unless there are any questions, that concludes my report.
Any questions? Old business.
Hey, they want some insurance. Come from Illinois.
They use the cell phones now.
Okay, we went over, we already discussed, I guess, the water.
The water district agreement, yes, you had discussed contacting the water department to meet with their board of commissioners to discuss the agreement. And we will contact them to set that up.
New business, COVID-19 vaccination agreement.
Yes, so, as you may or may not have seen on the news, the state is having multiple vaccination sites and a huge one coming up this weekend. And they're requesting the fire departments to help out with providing the services for vaccinators and multiple of other jobs that need to be done there. And I've held off on allowing our folks to do that because it requires that we put the money up front and then the state would reimburse us. And there's agreement that needs to be signed for that to happen. And so if you folks are okay with it, that would be I would ask that you authorize me to sign the agreement with the state so that the folks that want to do that.
I'm very unhappy with the state.
Is it a 100%?
I went online,
It's 100%.
I filled out 3 times there, then you have to go on BAM. So I go on there and I fill it out, and hear nothing. A couple days later, I called the 211. Now I waited an hour and a half. Somebody came on the line. I said, look, I said, he said, did you fill it out? I said, I filled it out 3 times. I got a response back to get a hold of BAM and fill that out. So I did. I said, I got nothing. He said, well, I can't help you, but I'm going to give you a number here to call. So I called that number. 2.5 hours, never got anybody. It is.
I don't blame you.
I mean, it's. So I was going by the World Tech the other day, and they see they're giving shots up there. I was thinking about pulling in there and see if I could get one. I don't think they'd give me one.
Late afternoon?
If you go in there at the end of the day,
Oh, really?
where they have leftovers.
Yeah, rather than waste?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
they'll give you a shot.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll try that then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll try that late afternoon.
Yeah.
They're gonna do what, 10,000 shots this weekend?
Yes. And there's a one shot.
And I understand by the
Johnson
end of
&
May,
Johnson.
everyone's gonna be, that will be
All
vaccinated.
adults.
I read an article, but
Well,
I don't know if I believe
the
it.
president said today that by the end of May, all adults should be able to get it. It'll be available to them, whether it actually
Right.
happens or not.
So a couple of questions with that. So it's 100% reimbursable.
Yes.
You are not going to allow them to take time and lead the overtime to cover down. It's only when they're off their normal shift, correct?
That's correct.
Or a swap or whatever, but so there's no financial overtime cost or anything
There
like
should be
that?
no cost to the fire district. We front for them it would be time and a half. If it's a career person, if it's a call person, it's their call rate of pay, because that's the way it is. But those costs are fully 100% reimbursable, including Medicare, Medicaid, and all the other things that go, taxes and all that stuff.
The people on shift will be the people on shift. We won't be paying an overtime to cover someone on
Yeah.
shift to do.
No, they would have to take time off to do that.
So someone who's not on shift, so that narrows this down to 12 people, and they would get overtime for going.
If they so
And that's
choose.
reimbursable.
Yeah.
But they can't get overtime to go cover Tim if they come up with it. Just use it as an
So in other words, you're saying if somebody's working, they don't take the day off,
Right,
somebody else will come in for overtime.
right.
Yeah, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, we're not going to let any shenanigans go on.
Okay.
I don't know, I think it's a great program in place. I don't know how active our members will be in the vaccinations.
I have a few members that express interest in it, not a lot. But I know I'm on the phone with conference meetings with the state folks every day, and they're begging for people. So if we can supply them 2, 3, 5 people, whatever it is, they'd be very grateful for it. If not,
I don't mind.
without this agreement,
It's up to them
Nobody's
though.
going.
It's not,
Right.
they're not being forced to do it.
totally voluntary.
Oh, I got nothing to do today. I'll go help.
Yep.
I don't mind signing as long as it does not cost us a dime.
That's it.
Anyway, in any way.
The agreement clearly lays that out, that we were fully reimbursed for 100% of
How
our.
long's reimbursement take?
So it's not really in this agreement, but after the 1 month's time, We have up until the 15th to submit our costs, and then they have 15 days to pay us. So,
So we could be
End
fronting,
of the month, you'll have it back.
we
Yeah.
could be fronting the state money for 60 days.
So, yeah,
that'd be 30 days, actually.
so we would,
Well, if they get paid, if they
Yeah,
do.
so, well, 45 days.
so we'd have to fund them and get reimbursement from the state.
Yes, we'll be reimbursed from the state.
Now, how does that cover the budget? Because that money has to go to the general fund.
So it's a reimbursement, so it offsets expenses, and you can reuse that because it's returned within the same year.
I just don't want to throw up the payroll lines, and all of a sudden, well, wait, why, why are you $10,000 over budget, even though it was reimbursed $10,000?
So it looks on the books, it's a debit, an expense, and then get reimbursed, it goes back.
And does it affect their retirement?
It does, actually. And the retirement cost for career employees is covered under the reimbursement.
So it's covering every line item in the budget that affects every dollar that we spend.
That's correct.
I support it as long as there's absolutely no,
Of course, whatsoever.
and I think it's great thing our people.
Well, I just
out
want,
there-
I don't want us to get caught with retirement and
Right.
taxes,
No, it covers that as well. I made sure of that because the other agreement that was out there before this one was that it was like a max, we'll pay you 60.
Yeah.
And for some people, it covered all their expenses, and some people it didn't. And I said, yeah.
Well, but also remember, these are the people that are going to get you your shots too.
if I choose. Yeah.
Absolutely, if you choose to.
No, fully support it and everything, I just, with the whole budget thing and going into a season. I would also recommend getting a photo or two of people in Tilton Northfield gear, maybe for the webpage or something, showing support, but, to publicize what we're doing. No, nothing.
So I would need a motion.
The Moderna one.
We'll make a motion to accept the chiefs,
The Moderna shot.
to allow the chief to go into the agreement with the Transport Emergency Management Directive as written,
2 weeks.
as with no cost, net cost to the department.
Second.
Then move second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
You got to sign anything, or?
You authorized me to sign it, so you don't have to sign it.
Okay, next thing on the list is permit fees.
Yeah, so I'll discuss that. Kind of came to my attention, actually, last week. I went and did an inspection for a gentleman on Oak Hill Road. He did the installation himself. And the fee was $30. And older gentleman, and he wanted to give me $30 in cash. And I said, well, I can't do cash, I'm really sorry. I can send you a bill. And he's like, well, I don't really have a checking account or anything. I just kind of work this way. And it got me thinking, if it's something the district should offer as a service for homeowners without a fee. So if Mike Robinson puts in a wood stove, he still has to fill out a permit application, but he doesn't have to pay the fee associated with it. Now, if he hires a company to put the pellet stove in, that company's already building in that permit fee into that price. So he's going to pay it one way or another. So, but if you installed it yourself and you came to fill out a permit application, there would be no fee for you. It'd be a service that the district offers because you're paying your tax dollars for us to do this. And I hadn't really thought about it too much until I was working with this gentleman, and he was just kind of like in a pinch. Or if we don't choose to do that, if maybe we can, I know we have hardship for EMS billing. The amount of times that I do those inspections, or we do those inspections for the private homeowner are very, very minimal. Very minimal. At the most 10 times a year. So you're talking maybe $130, if that. So talking to the chief, talking to Kathy, we kind of discussed a little bit. I just thought it might be a service that the district can offer to the taxpayers. And
To charge them?
to not charge them.
Oh, yeah.
We charge them right now.
Well,
Private.
you do charge.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer in, if you pay taxes, that covers whatever you guys do to take care of. If it's inspection, then that's what you should do. I mean, we're paying for that service.
So I guess my question is to the commissioners is we have a fire prevention policy in place that has a fee schedule set up. If we're going to alter or modify that fee schedule for residents, we have to document this and make sure it's done the correct way. I am totally on board with, for the private homeowner who's installing an appliance by themselves, that they still have to fill out the permit application, they still have to go out through the inspection process, but they don't get a bill for it. If a private company comes in and does it, then that's a different story. Or if you're building a house and to sell as an investment or a rental property, that still all applies. But, for Mr. Smith on Sandoggy Pond Road, if he wants to install a pellet stove himself, then there's no fee associated with it.
Well, I think not only that, but if you start charging people, well, you do anyhow, but if you did that constantly to people that live in the community, eventually they're going to say, the hell with that, I'm not paying $30, I'll do it myself.
We always have.
Their house burns down, and
Right.
Yeah.
so it would be a service to offer people, we don't charge you that, we'll come inspect it. I think it's great.
Yeah, it's incorporating safety into it because, as you said, now we have a known, it's like, hey, you really should do it this way so that you're not seeing us in a different capacity. Because I'm sure you can find things. I had a couple of questions. You said it's rare, so that's one of the first things is how much would be out. I definitely support it from a safety point of view, like you said, because at least now we'll have better eyes on as opposed to just...
Well, make the homeowner actually fill out a permit, get the inspection process.
Right, and so it can be done in a safe way.
And then stuff to us on whether we build them or not. Because, when they fill out the application, they have to put down on the application who's doing the work. And if it's a contractor that's doing it, they built it into their price.
So the question is how it's determined. Is it determined based on that criteria, or is it determined like the EMS hardship? And which way we want to go with that?
Well, what if I hired a company to come in and say put in so it's built in there, the inspection.
The company would,
You send them a bill?
yes.
Yes.
Okay.
It's corporation.
But how do you know someone's doing something?
You ultimately don't. If you decide to put in a whole new heating system, you don't tell anybody, we don't know.
We don't know.
Until you go out later.
Right, ultimately, we don't know.
But I think across the board, electrical, heating, what have you, is you're dealing with reputable people. They know what you have to do. They're not going to risk their reputation by not doing it.
Well, they're all licensed.
But if it's, if it's a tough month and Joe's back alley gas company doing
They're in violation of the state law at that point then.
when they're out there.
No, I don't believe you.
Yeah.
You see it.
Yeah, I'm an electrician and I can't work because I'm a journeyman. I have to work under a master. I can't even do side work. If I do, I lose my car.
Right.
Exactly. It's part of the licensing laws if we find out.
God, can you pull that mask just a little bit?
Up or down?
Well, you like it when it talks?
Well, no, it talks.
It has a crease and then
It's got a crease and it's great. It has that clown look to it.
Yeah.
So I guess if the commissioners are in favor of it, we can kind of change the wording on our ordinance a little bit. In that way, it reflects that. And then bring it back to you.
I have no problem. You take a vote on that?
I think it's good.
We'll bring it back to you and vote.
And then approve it at that point. I think it's a good idea. It's definitely a service back and it helps us get a better, safer community because people will actually come to us ahead of time. The intent.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the list is district meeting plan, PowerPoint review.
So, you got this in front of you? So basically, I wanted to go over slide by slide to see, you guys want this slide in the PowerPoint presentation? You want me to change it, or you think it's just too much and throw it out? Is everything okay with the first slide?
I like having balances in there so that people know where we're at.
Yep.
I think that's good.
What about, safer drink? Give me a hot button on topic, please.
I know that, do you want me to create a PowerPoint slide?
I don't know if I want a PowerPoint slide ready, but I want a slide ready that shows how much we received, what we've had out of pocket, and what the worst, I know we've kind of planned for a worst case of insurance and what the reality is of insurance.
I have,
And what we stand to gain.
Well, I just know it's going to be driven, but this is,
Good.
you know, it was $950,000. Okay, we're spending X amount on salaries this year, the insurance, you know, and then what else will you have covered in that grant? And yes, there's a cost to the district, and this is what it is.
I like the facts. I like having the idea of having, not necessarily that projected potential number, because that's a iffy, but knowing that if an ambulance runs, we get this much for an ambulance. So theoretically, 8 calls get that. So having that number available, but it's an assumption, so not on the PowerPoint, whereas that would be
Just
facts.
have,
So,
just
so
have to
I
have
have
that,
some information here that I
just have it in your
kind of
back pocket,
combined.
ready to go.
yeah,
The
exactly.
actual taxpayer cost from the operating budget this year for all 4 employees is $7,260.
So that's gonna be a lot different, because someone's gonna start throwing out numbers, well, the uniforms are $5,000 a piece, and if you do that.
$5,000 for the whole thing, for all of the uniforms is $5,000. Background checks equal $260. Physicals is $2,000. $7,260 is what it costs the taxpayer.
That was everything.
That's everything. Their turnout gear, which is not out of the operating budget and doesn't affect the tax rate, that total cost was $15,120.
Where that money come from?
It came from the apparatus and equipment fund.
Okay.
Is that all 4 or each?
That's all 4.
So
Okay.
that's good to have, because,
Yeah.
because the people that start throwing numbers around, and
Right.
So the other thing I have here is we used a mutual aid ambulance 82 times last year. We averagely collect $525 per transport. That's what we collect average. Total lost revenue last year was $43,500 because we used the mutual aid ambulance. If we transport, out of those 82, if we transport 14, if we get 14 of those back, we've broken even. If we do more than that, we're making money.
Right, and so that's what we'll have. That, the first part of that, the actual cost, was that facts versus the assumptions. I mean, so,
well, you have to think of this as a business at some point.
Right.
Because we are, even though we're a government agency, we're still a business. In this one. We're in the business of transportation.
yep.
I have a problem with that. When it's convenient, people want to think of it as a business. When it's not convenient, it's a service.
We're in the service business.
So I do have all this information. I can make it a little bit more clear than what I just
Well, I
said.
just think it's something to have
Yeah.
in your, let me just pull that up.
I think, and there's a lot of things we gotta keep in our back pocket, because, boy, last year was a
It was
problem.
horrible.
And, you know, I suggest, let me speak as a taxpayer. Years ago, we had a chief submit a budget, and it was approved and reviewed by commissioners. But that wasn't good enough. So 10 or 15 years ago, somebody said, you need a budget committee. So we pulled these people together to double check the chief and the commissioners to make sure they're treating people. Still not good enough. you know. So we go through this entire process of going through these 3 sections. The first thing, somebody throws their hand up and says, I want to amend it. I never got to hear it. You never told me what these 3 people, or these 3 different portions of our department, I never got to see what they worked on all year because somebody threw their hand up and said, I'm going to amend it. I want to find out how we stop that. That,
One way to get today, we probably.
well, those people have the right to do that. I understand that, and there's time for that. But we had so much confusion by allowing that to happen that they never get to hear the original presentation, and somehow we've got to stop that. Not stop the amendment, at least allow us to get through the process of which you people have approved. And I think that's important, because that happened last year, and they chewed us up and spit us out. Because we didn't have control of that. And, you know, can that be point of order? I don't know. And maybe it's a good question to ask Mr. Finneran.
Yeah.
But they chewed us up and spit us out because without even a presentation from all 3 of these separate entities within our organization, never got to present it. One person got to stop it. Just an observation.
That's an excellent observation.
I think that is something that the moderator, because he does read the warrant article, and then from there, it should be someone speaking to the article, which could be from either side of the table, and then it should be open to the floor for discussion.
Totally.
Should be. That's how it should be run now. Last year, there was agenda to end the meeting before the meeting started, and
Absolutely.
and that's why, as you said, they're like, I want to do this. Because it wasn't even about the warrant article that being discussed. It was, I want to make a motion to end the meeting.
Correct.
It wasn't even about Article 1 or warrant Article 1. It was about end the meeting.
I agree with you.
I don't think that will happen this year because there'll be, I mean, last year we were dealing with, the school dealt with the same thing, and this year you won't be seeing that as much, I don't think.
Yeah, I hope you're right. I hope it's...
For that part, but they'll be great for other things for us.
The one I can't believe was to amend the ability to spend money out of the apparatus and equipment fund for other things. All the money people in the world that sit out there and complain every year, whoop, went right over their head. You people missed a biggie.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
All right, so the first page, the fund balance page is good? Anything you want to change about it?
I don't know if you should put the average 525 or whatever it is, average revenues collected per patient.
Oh, okay.
I don't know, I'm just,
That might be on more, this is like the very first page. I think they might even want to have that on another page as a,
I just see it.
I thought that would be
We might
good
want to
for
add
the safer,
right, when you do a safer and you go down a little bit, this is just the real fast.
Yeah.
Maybe
Maybe have it on your safer.
I will.
Yeah.
It's not that, if you have a lot of stuff on there, they're gonna start.
No, that's
It's a little thing about it.
Oh, yeah.
So that, just basic.
And it's gonna be in, we know the projecting system works better in the cafetorium, so we'll be good there,
Yes.
and so we'll know for a fact. Because that was one of the things I saw when we got to the pie chart, just making sure the colors are distinct enough, because the school district has blue hues. You can't figure out which hue of blue it is when it gets up onto a projector screen 30 feet away, and
I actually picked the default pie charts because the people that make, PowerPoint, the Microsoft, they pick the best colors, how to differentiate. The more pie slices you have, the more colors there are, and it can get confusing at the end, but the fewer the better, actually.
yeah, when we get to it, I'll just mention, see, just if they can have more contrast in it sometimes, but we'll get there.
The next slide is a picture of the tower, which is off of Shed Road, 181 Shed
When
Road.
was that approved?
It was approved, I'd have to look at,
Was it
What year?
1918 or?
no, I think it was in 18. I think it was approved at the district meeting in 2018.
So maybe just underneath there, say approved 2018? Just to, so people don't think that we spent that money last year.
A talking point to this one is, because we saw it tonight with the electrical bills, is what this tower is costing us. If it's only electric, that's fine, it's only costing us this much in electric yearly. It's just a talking point to it, because it's like, it's out there, we plow it, so that's not, do you do any landscaping costs or anything you have to do it there? Okay.
So the only cost currently we have there right now is the electricity and propane for the generator.
Okay, so that would just be a talking point to have, doesn't have to be on the slide, but be ready for, because like when we saw the electric bill tonight, it's like, okay, it's minimal, but just knowing
There
what
is
it is.
also part of the system, the monitoring fee for the radio system.
Okay, so-
That would be anywhere.
Right, but just so we can spell that out, hey, so this is what we do pay on a year, it's $1,000 a year. Okay, at least have that as a talking point for yourself, so that if someone asks the question, we have the answer ahead of time, rather than like,
Yeah,
because those are the gotchas that some people like to use. And if we can think ahead of their gotchas and come back, it really does sell it better.
and we don't want to bring it up until they ask the question.
Right,
Yeah.
that's why it's not on the slide, but it's,
That's
as your talking point, ready for it.
Sure, I got it. Next slide is just how many responses we went through last year.
Could, just the way it's looking in there with your 2020 right above the 2010,
Yep.
it
Yeah.
doesn't look good on the eye.
No.
If there's just some other way of shifting it around a little bit, spreading it apart, it's just some of these aesthetics things that
Yeah.
people pick up on.
But the other thing is,
Yeah, I can make that better.
the other thing is, here, it says that, and then 4 or 5 pages later, you have a graph that shows the same total.
Yeah, I don't know if that graph's gonna be, I threw up as much as I could in here so you guys could decide whether you wanna keep it or not, or throw it out.
Sometimes I think when we get into the stats, we lose people.
Totally.
Yeah.
That's what some people have told me, and so that's why I wanna go through this with you guys to see. If that's just too much, let's get rid of it.
Yeah, it's just aesthetically shifting those apart in some fashion.
Yeah, it's,
But, yeah, we don't, how did we compare for busiest departments in Lake Region?
Yep.
Well,
This kind of goes towards kind of the SAFER grant. Calls per line person, where I just wanted to show that last year, per person, to try and average it out, and to equally average it out over the 4 busiest departments, we did 167.5 calls per line person. Whereas you look at Franklin, Guilford, and Laconia, we're way above what they were doing. It's just like another justification of why the folks in Washington looked at our grant application and says, yeah, you need help. Now, this may be too much for them at the same time.
They don't care.
one of the things I saw on this that I had concern with is, yes, you selected 4 departments, but it really should be career departments around us. So, I mean, one of the first things that comes to mind here is like, well, why Belmont's career, why aren't they on there? San Bernardino only has minimal career, it's not fully, I believe, I'm not sure what their makeup is.
So this says 4 busiest departments.
Yeah.
But people aren't going to see that.
Correct. They're going to look at this and they're going to look at who's named there, because I kind of said, okay, well, Belmont, Plymouth, San Bernardino, where Plymouth is a call, I don't know if they compare in number of manpower,
Yeah.
or things like that, but that's the first thing that comes to mind when I look at that. Well, why is that one that's literally right next door not on there with their career also? Are we saying that we're not including them because they're busier or slower? These are the
I just picked the
questions.
busiest.
But these are the questions that immediately come to a mind of a negative nanny.
Eric?
Question. The numbers for Franklin also include their calls to Andover.
Yes.
So I think in parentheses, if you have that, you need to say also include Andover. Because without those calls, we would actually be that much busier. I don't know how many calls they do over Andover, just to do that. But maybe you include the towns that touch Tilton. So include Sanford and Belmont. Because you work with those departments. These are all the departments that we kind of work closest with.
So this also counts our calls to Franklin and Sanford and Belmont and
Right.
and Laconia,
For the year.
and we go to Guilford, and
I was just career departments and stuff. It's kind of showing you.
Yeah, but Sanford can skew those numbers lower because just, and I don't know what Belmont's call numbers are, but
Belmont's they're around 14 or 1,500 calls a year. Sanford's around somewhere between 400 and 500 calls a year. Plymouth, I don't remember what they're doing.
Yeah, I wouldn't take
They're
Plymouth.
1,600, 1,700 calls a year.
I wouldn't take Plymouth though, just because it's a different town and a different.
But it's within each of these have something different. I mean, Tilton has a commercial, Northfield has a bedroom community, Laconia has a mixture of that, Guilford has the vacation community, and they have the Gunstock Magic Bus.
Well, then do you include Canterbury and Concord? I mean,
They're not career, and that's kind of what I was looking at.
Concord is.
Well, Concord's a different pack than us.
Yeah, but I actually did the numbers for Concord, and Concord's like 124. The numbers,
I think people don't know this. I mean, they're going to pick that pretty good. But
Yeah, they are.
I would skip that one and go to the next one. The next one would be, I think,
Yes.
So a consensus, just get rid of this slide?
I would have it in your back
Absolutely.
pocket.
They have it there.
Yeah.
You'll be ready to fight.
Just in case.
For the 4 people. Because you've already got the 4 people.
Right.
Now you got to try to keep them.
Okay. Next slide is 2020 ambulance mutual aid.
Does that include recently, I think it was last weekend, you had a fire over on Cross Mill, and I think New Hampton came down and covered us with the ambulance. They were the cover ambulance.
They transported 2 now.
But would
They
they?
transported 2 actually.
No, but does that include when they
These are transports.
do actual transfer, not just when they come down and cover?
This is where you'll want that talking point of that we just talked about, of what an ambulance revenue or an average ambulance transport cost is. You'll want that as a talking point on this one, because when you're talking about this, so an average transport is 500 or something we just said?
525.
525. So this is where it actually impacts us directly, is seeing that, so you have 20 of these, so there's about 1,000, 20, 1,000, whatever, versus what we've received. So this is where a benefit is having that. This is revenue. This is revenue, potential revenue coming in, and this is about what that equals out to when they're looking at all these numbers. Because they can see we paid out, we theoretically would have paid out and brought in a lot more money if we didn't rely on them for transport. And there's going to be times when other departments are going to transport 3 calls back to back, things like that, or a significant motor vehicle accident. You're only going to use 1 ambulance because your other ambulance is going to be sitting on the scene working and doing things, and you're going to have other departments and stuff coming in. But theoretically,
Yeah, well, if it's something that's really bad, we're only going to use one of our ambulances.
right, you're going to have one come in and the other one's going to be busy on scene.
Yeah.
But just having that talking point of the 525 on that one, that's a great, because these are expected questions that we can throw out, and by throwing that out, it shows that more aware of the material rather than the questioning look. Yeah, because theoretically, that's 10 to 20 seconds on that slide. And
Right.
look at the next slide. Any questions? Okay, move on. If there is a question, okay, hold on a second. Let's get that answer for you. which is the same as your total mutual aid right behind it.
Yeah. Any problem with the total mutual aid slide, or keep it, or is it just too much information?
Too much information.
I'm not sure how well it's gonna be seen on the projector when you're saying 30, 40 feet back too.
Excuse me?
When we're sitting back on this, they're not gonna be able to see the
You're
detail
looking
of
at the
it.
graph.
I'm looking at this slide. I haven't got to that slide.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I thought we said that one was good.
Is this too much information, or is it good information?
No, I like the mutual aid, I mean,
Yeah.
it's,
You like that?
I mean, it's pretty basic,
Yeah.
just basic.
All right. This is kind of busy.
And it's going to be hard to see.
It is gonna be hard, and people, I don't even know, if people look at this and,
Yeah, I agree. I just put it in there because it has been in the past, but my personal inclination is just kind of get rid of it for now.
Yeah.
I would have the information available again for yourself.
Yep.
So if someone asks what it's been like, then you might be able to pull this up. Well, this is what it was last year, and this was our EMS versus fire and our total. So having that information, still keep it, but for your,
Not as a slide.
not as a slide, right? That way you have that information if the question comes up, or it's a talking point you can talk to and have that as a, in your deck.
Or use the slide and answer the question.
Right.
The next slide is the type of incidents.
Yeah, this one.
It tells a pretty good story, really. Shows the green is EMS, the motor vehicle accidents.
I like that, I kind of like that, I mean, it looks, kind of give you, people can see it. Yeah, I like that one.
Next one is incident locations. I did this in 3D, but I don't know if 2D looks better. Because the previous slide was in 2D.
Yeah.
This one's in 3D, and I guess I wanted to get your take on which type of slide you like better, 2D or 3D, and I'll make them all the same.
I almost prefer if it had a map of the district and showing it outline. I know.
Yeah. Okay, I'm okay with this stuff. I'm not that good.
We did have a company do that for us though once.
Yeah, I thought we did, but
That was back in when the International Association of Firefighters collaborated with the fire district and doing a fire station location study.
Yep.
That's when they did that, and,
Yep.
and that's so long ago.
Right.
It doesn't match anything anymore.
Everything you showed on, let's show the first one.
The 2D?
The 2D.
Yeah. And the only reason, one of the reasons is because it shows how many calls in total, 63%, 37 in Northfield, that gives, I kind of like that.
Okay, change to 2D.
I know the next one is one more.
Yeah.
Know what you're talking about there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
we do it for a month.
Yes, basically all I'm trying to say is that it doesn't matter what month it is, they're all pretty close.
And I know, but I didn't see that, but they don't look at that and say, oh.
They don't care.
Yeah.
Get rid of it.
Looks like a trivia pursuit thing.
Yeah. And then the next one was incidents by day. A lot of people say, oh, well, Saturday's going to be your busiest day. It might, some years it is, some years it isn't. But they're all basically even, if you look at it. And that busiest day has changed the last 4 years.
I don't know, bike park bumps on Saturday.
It does.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So I don't know if you want to keep that slide or,
It's just like Gunstock for Guilford. I mean, their weekends in the winter season, it's,
I think either the hour or the day, one of them. I mean, I guess I don't.
One or the other?
I think the incident by day is better than the hour, because people look at that, they know.
where it's so close to the, I mean, you're off by high to low of 4.
yeah.
Sunday is 12%, and then you have Saturday at 16%. I don't even think this is much of a variance that you're showing with that one. Now,
It'd be different if like Wednesday was like the busiest day. of the
10 or
week.
15 difference or something like
Yeah,
that.
like 20, and, you know,
Right.
Sunday was 8.
So in the years that I've been here and doing this pie chart, every year, it's been a different day that's been the busiest day, but the percentages have all basically been even within like 4% of every single day, from the low to the high. It's just, they're all, you'd think they'd one day be
Oh,
really busy
no.
than the other, but it's just not.
But sometimes the slides, I know Chief Sheridan like me, they're for the presenter, not for you.
Right.
It's a point I want to make, don't dwell on it. All our calls seem to even do that.
Yeah.
Next slide.
Yeah, and so with that, it's like not I put it in where it's, the next one, the incidents by hours, that one's nice because that one has a dramatic.
That is dramatic.
That tells
Change.
the story.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's explaining something different, whereas the other one is like, yeah, we're plus or minus 2% mean.
About 4 p.m. I think is always the highest.
Well, it just,
Peter,
you think about it.
So this last year was 4 p.m. The year before that, it was 2 p.m.
So,
It changed, like, these are things that change every year. It might, not by a lot. It's always in the afternoon for us, which is the busiest time.
but it sells the big time of that's when, in explaining that call force are part of the people on the roads and stuff and not necessarily home at that time.
Yep.
Right, and it shows that that is the time when they're working.
Yeah, the call folks come out right around 4, 4:30, 5 o'clock is when the call folks.
On their way home, it's like not going home. So I like the incidents by hour,
Okay.
that's my thought.
Next slide, average response time by your location.
I think it's, if we're fighting for a station, I think it's a good slide, but
Not this year?
not this year. That's just me. I'm 1 of 3.
It doesn't mean a lot to me, but.
It's a good point. This is going to be a long meeting, no matter
Oh,
what you
yeah,
do.
that's what I mean. I mean, the more you put it, they're gonna go in there and start,
Yeah.
well, you know, you get tied up on this
You
one
do
thing.
not want death by PowerPoint.
Right now, this would lead to more negative when you read that right below. Recommended response time by ISO is 4 minutes, and then right before, below it, our response is only 40%. That alone is gonna take a lot of negative.
They're gonna go, geez, Steve, why are you getting them out the door faster?
Yeah.
It's just,
It's not gonna-
It's actually response time measured in
Right.
here is time from the time you left the fire station to the time you arrived
You
on
lost me.
scene.
Right,
It's-
see,
You lost me.
it's not gonna work.
I mean, I understand what you're saying with it. I just know that this is gonna be, now they're gonna lose focus of the next 2 warrant articles because they're gonna be cranky about this for 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah, and they're gonna say, we just gave you 400 people, what are you talking about?
So that
All right.
just has a,
Oh, they didn't give us 100 people.
I know, but that's what they're gonna, that's the thinking.
Next slide, average arrival for on-scene times.
that's a good one, in my opinion.
So when we only have one call going on, single incidents, the average, or anywhere in the district, the average arrival time is 6 minutes, 20 seconds. Now, again, that's travel time, because that's how things are measured. It doesn't count call processing time, it doesn't count dispatching time, it doesn't count turnout time. It just counts the time from the time you start rolling the tires to the time you get there.
But all that other things is if people start asking and trying to dig.
Yeah,
That's
because
where you
you
have
call
that
911, it
information,
says,
that's all.
it took them 15 minutes to get here, what are you talking about? Well, you have your call taking
Right.
time, you have your dispatching time, you have your turnout time. Those are all before you get to these things.
Right.
This is when we hit the road.
Yeah,
Correct, but we have that information as a talking point if needed.
Right.
We don't necessarily talk about it unless someone, you take the audience in as they're going. If they're just, yep, that's good, all right, we'll move right to the next thing. If it's, well, this is because this is road time.
Yep.
This is not all the other stuff.
right.
And even when you start getting into explaining all that other stuff, you might lose people real fast, so.
I
that-
could, because if you have a simple call, the call taking process is a lot shorter than if it's a complex call and they're trying to instruct you on how to do CPR, that call taking process
lost
takes a
me.
lot longer.
You lost me.
I don't
But, and that's,
understand.
no, that's what we're saying, the short, simple, sometimes give it to them, and then if they're still trying to drive more from you, okay, well, I'll give you a little bit more, but if I can give you a quick answer, okay, next. If we can.
Short and sweet.
Yep,
Yes,
yes,
and simple.
yes,
Less is more.
Simple is
right.
always better.
yeah,
So you want to keep that slide in for now?
I think so.
All right. The next slide I have is EMS incidents by age. And basically it tells you 65% of those incidents are for people aged 50 years or older.
I'd move that in the presentation.
Yeah.
Who cares? I already figured that out anyways. Old people die.
Somewhere in the instance.
Right after incidents, we got rid of the incidents by day, right?
Right.
Yeah.
You've got the incidents by hour.
It just seems like weird we went from response time to age.
Yeah, you need to put it back by the incidents.
Yeah.
Somewhere in there. I think it's good. It shows that we're,
You've got incident locations, and then your incidents by month, incidents by day, incidents by hour, somewhere in there.
I got that one.
Yeah, so before your average arrival on scenes,
Yes,
that's probably, flip those two.
definitely.
Because then you're talking all incidents and then it's a transition into your arrival.
Good. The next slide is not really part of the PowerPoint presentation, but I have it, so.
For the warrant article.
It's for the warrant article, so
I think that'll show up to people.
Yeah.
Want to know.
Yep, they are.
well, we'll be there, we'll have it.
Yep.
So I can put it on when that warrant article comes up.
Well,
Or I can just have it up there before the meeting starts and.
I'm not sure if you're gonna have like a PowerPoint going beforehand.
So-
I'm not sure if you're planning on that.
The next question I have for the commissioners, do the commissioners want the building committee to do their presentation this year that they
Oh, yeah.
wanted to do last year?
I think it
And
has
if,
to.
and if you are, you have
Other
to get a hold of
business.
Kate, is it Caitlin who's going to do it?
Caitlin and Kevin Kate.
Yeah.
Can that be done at the beginning?
It can be
So
done
that
before
we
the
don't
meeting.
lose the
That was the plan, to have it do it before the meeting, at the beginning of the meeting.
We'd have to do it with Kent, and it's an informational thing, and I think where we've already done the warrant articles, I'm not sure if he'd want us to do it at the beginning.
Yeah. Well, we do have warrant articles for, for $100,000.
Well, you do have a warrant, yes, for the 100,000 warrant article.
Right.
For engineering. That might be a good
That's a good
opportunity to
time to
see
do
if
that.
he'll let us have 10 minutes to go over what it was about it, to explain it before it's voted on.
Yeah.
That might be a good opportunity for it.
That's it off.
Yeah,
In your spare time.
It is pretty much radio. It's talking about the process and all that. It's not like you're selling
No, we're not selling the project
a
yet.
structure, right? You're just letting them know the progress of the,
this is where we're at, this is why we want to do this.
this is why we're looking for why do you need $100,000 not building a station? Well, in order to build a station, you need some engineered prints. You need to have something. Now, of course, when this article comes up, we are going to get beat up again. How much money you spent on engineering in the past for the last 2 or 3? And so there is potential negative repercussion on this one.
Sure. Just the, I don't know if it was said here, but in Tilton with our new police station, if we had done it for this year, the cost would then double.
Yes,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I can actually get from Rob Berry what average construction costs are because he tells us every meeting with the school that this is, and Lance. Yeah, I'll reach out to Lance, Rob Berry and Lance, because Lance has the part of the school budget and stuff.
Yeah.
This is what the construction cost will be based on, and
Yeah, not
So-
good here.
in the last couple of years, but because of
30%.
supply and all that, everything's gone up.
The
So
supply
I will
chain.
reach out to Lance and Rob Berry and get you that.
Kathy, do we post PowerPoint on our website?
We do not.
We should, because that was one of the things last year, is that the report wasn't available on the website in advance.
It is now, it's been on there
Right.
for a while.
But
I guess the second question is, have we ever provided printed copies for people
Yes,
Of the PowerPoint,
for the PowerPoint?
we should,
we should,
but people seeing further back, they can't see it.
right. We should, definitely.
you can print that out.
Yeah, have like 50 or 60 copies.
Here's not that, but that's one for everyone.
Yeah. Well, we don't know how many are shown.
I wouldn't bet on it this year. I'm going to bet that we'll see probably 120, 150.
You think so?
I think
I
that's
don't think
enough
we'll be able to
topics.
fit in there if you have that many.
Yeah.
That's a concern.
I think that town meeting will only
You all set with that?
And to do
I have a, I don't know if it, I just thought this may be a good time to throw it out there, is that we've talked with the Safer Grant about the commissioners having a committee. And we're supposed to discuss that at the district meeting, and I don't know if that's a point where we say, within a couple months, we'll be looking for volunteers to be on a committee to help study.
That would be other business at the back of it, and
Yeah, I just figured throw it in there.
I think it's a good plug to get people, because that's kind of what we did with the station committee a couple of years ago,
Yeah,
and we actually,
got a good group.
we got people in, and I think people are trying to, Safer Grant, I think if you advertise that, you'll have quite a few that will be wanting to do it.
Kind of on the same point, but a different point. What about next year, moving district meeting to
Saturday.
a
The Saturday before
town meeting?
town meeting. I mean,
So before the election,
Okay, and your thought process?
more people would be involved maybe?
Can you do it that way?
why not? There's nothing that says you can't. The Board of Commissioners are the ones that set the date.
Okay, so that,
So next
never heard of
year,
that.
we would be looking at March 5th,
Saturday morning.
because election day would be March 8th. Town meetings are March 12th. School district meeting would be March 19th.
You have to make your decision now, but certainly something to think about.
Food for thought.
I know part of the thought process is not being the last one to the wallet.
No, that wasn't,
No, it
no,
wasn't.
that had nothing to do with it.
But that's part of what I think about with this, is it's like the last one to the wallet is the one that takes the hardest hit. I'm just concerned doing it before the election, first off.
Well, it doesn't, that really doesn't matter, because the people who get elected do not assume office until
Sworn
after.
in, until sworn in after the meeting.
Yeah.
Right,
So,
You wouldn't know who that is yet.
right. So they would be sworn in after the election rather than making them wait until the meeting to be sworn in. They could start immediately because the meeting's over and done with. It's been handled by the board that prepared it with,
I definitely have to think about that.
Yeah.
well, that's why we're bringing
food
it
for
up.
thought. That's why I'm here now.
But it's all in how long that piece of paper is. you know, the warrant articles.
Right.
But I guess if I could say something to the board, it took me a while to think about 4 people per shift. And I gotta tell you, I'm on board. Because I keep looking at that list, and that is breaking my heart. We are down to 9 people, 3 of which are EMTs. The rest are all good firefighters and very devoted people. We're down to 9. I gotta admit, I sure hope you guys are 100% behind this and willing to fight for it, because this is being proactive. I can tell you, by looking at the list, there's some young people there with some training now, and unfortunately, job offers, keen. Who knows what young people are going to do? Well, exactly. Exactly. You know, I sure hope you people are behind this 100%, because it's getting to be where we need to be. They're not kicking the doors down. I don't think we're scaring them off.
We actually offer our call folks more than most departments do. And so we try and incentivize, you know, folks for coming here and into being here and staying here, but it's a different culture today than it was, you know, 20 years ago. It's just different.
I've said it in the past, in past meetings, and I'm going to try to shut my mouth, but we threw this grant out there, and guess what? There's a lot of people that were on this grant board that took a look and went, whoa, look at these poor people. You know, and we won. When you win, sometimes it's because you were behind times. You didn't catch up. This is the most important thing about that Safer grant. Somebody gave us some money to try it out. Maybe the timing was perfect. Nobody likes the cost of anything, but as we've talked about, I think we're going at this level funded. We can pick up those costs of calls that we've missed, and at least come level funded, and we get to try something for 3 years for free. But in reality, you know, with one of our full-time guys, one of our call people become a full-time guy, good for him. He worked hard for it, and he deserves it. He's not up there
Better here
anymore.
than somewhere else.
Well, absolutely, but I can't use him there anymore.
Right.
I
No,
can't-
I know that, but, you know, he could have gotten to the point where he's like, there's never gonna be an open here, I'm gonna go to Belmont, I'm gonna go to
Oh, absolutely.
Tony, I'm gonna go to
And-
Vermont.
So all of his invested time, we're getting our
So,
reward on that time.
Yes, we are.
I just hope you as commissioners are behind this. It took me a minute to bite it, chew it, and take it on, but it's reality. It's reality. You know, this,
We're nowhere in the system, so to do
Right, yeah, that's one I already went earlier.
yeah, we don't have ghosts.
I'm like, what?
We're slowly phasing our way into it. We're going to continue to fight. We're going to try to recruit and do the best we can. But they're not knocking doors down anywhere.
I think that in 2 years probably, you'll probably see an opportunity of a resurgence of people looking
I hope you're right.
because of what's potentially changing at the school.
Mm-hmm.
With that feeder program for the college, then that might be something where almost like the Explorer program and stuff
Yep.
like that, and
Good.
Do we even have an Explorer program anymore?
here we don't. Does the police department even have it? I think so.
Yeah.
Do they?
I
Well,
think they used to, I don't know
they
if
used
they have
to.
them currently.
I don't know what
They've
we
had
have
such a
right now.
huge turnover currently.
Yeah, because I thought that Tilton had that, but.
They do, but I don't.
Anyways, I wanted to say that and thank you for listening.
There should have been public comment though.
I'm sorry. My timing's really off.
That's all right.
Okay, let's move on.
All right, who's going to talk to what warrant article?
Which one is number 5?
Add to land and building fund.
Do you have the list?
I do, I'm looking at it right now, I'm going to type the names
I'll
on
take
there.
it if you want.
Well, I don't have a warrant.
Add to land and building fund,
Yeah,
all right, I'll do that.
Yeah, I don't have any tonight.
Paul, what's going on?
Yes. Design and engineering and architectural fees.
I'll probably take that one where I was on the station committee.
All right?
And that's where we want to do the PowerPoint program.
That's where we may
The
elicit,
report.
correct, the report as well, and with, yeah, I'll work that with Caitlin and.
Land purchase,
I'll do that. I'll give you,
fire prevention expendable trust fund.
I'll do that.
there you go.
What number's that?
That is number 8.
Might as well do number 9 too.
I'll do number 9
Hold
too.
on a minute, I got it down page 9.
Yeah, that's the overall budget.
Yeah.
All
So the
right.
bows and arrows come
And
out.
number 10 is the health insurance deductible.
I'll do that.
The communications tower is number 11.
Eric can do that.
I'll do that one too.
Contingency fund is number 12.
I'll do that.
Pressurized hydrants is number 13.
Crickets,
I got
crickets,
4.
crickets, crickets.
I'm more than willing to go with that one.
Okay, John.
I just have to refrain myself a little bit. I'll have to make sure I do some breathing exercise beforehand, because otherwise,
And just read it.
that's the problem. So I'm more than willing to fight this one.
Okay, apparatus and equipment fund budget is number 14.
Which one is that?
Apparatus and equipment fund budget, 14.
This is just putting money into the apparatus fund, it's not the.
No, it's
This is
spending
for
the
child
budget.
care,
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
so the
equipment.
Yeah.
standard.
Annual stuff.
I'll do it.
And you're gonna send us the list, time. Like
I will.
Because you don't trust us, and I respect that.
Right. Number 15 is the new fire engine. Oh, crickets again.
I don't mind.
Number 16 is the new ambulance. Oh,
It's too high an amount for Paul.
those darn crickets.
No, I was against it, if you remember, Eric, I'm not.
I'll do it. Number
16. Number 17 is the operating budget. Did you say you would do that?
Sure.
All right, and number 18 is transact any other business, and I'm going to put down under there that this will be, Paul, then you get to talk about the committee for the Safer Grant funding. Safer employee funding.
Yeah.
Future.
Sustainment, safer sustainment committee.
Oh, okay, that's what you want to call it?
Or it was, no, I don't, it was something along that lines is what it was the sustainment potential was
Right.
in there. Because that's the goal of me, figuring out.
how to
Or
sustain
safer
it. Or
employees.
what's the take to sustain it,
Yeah,
whether it's
sustainment.
gonna be through.
So I have
All
some.
right, good.
You all set?
I'm all set.
Okay, for Article 15 on the new engine, I said I have some slides that like I have kind of prepared, but I didn't show them here because I want to talk about it first. The 720 reflects a 3.6% increase over the cost of the engine from last year. It also reflects a 1.4% savings in engineering costs, which is $8,000 because we're using the same plans from one engine. From the one we just ordered, we say just build the next one exactly the same, with automatically saving $8,000. Current engine 3 has 120,000 miles on it. Engine 3 cost, in 2020, the repair cost for engine 3 was $17,500. In 2019, it was $30,000. In 2018, it was $16,000. In 2017, it's $19,000. This year, we've already spent $5,000 keeping the thing on the road
Already, 2 months?
already.
Good God.
A new engine will cost about $1,500 in maintenance the first year.
Yeah.
That maintenance fee is what it's going to cost the taxpayers to keep a new engine on the road rather than 17, 30, 16, or $19,000 a year. So you're seeing a big savings. You're saving money by ordering and getting a new engine. You're saving money by buying it now before it goes up in price again. And you're saving it now because it's going to be cheaper to keep on the road than spending a ton of money every single year to try and keep it on the road.
You don't lease them, huh? You don't lease fire trucks.
You can lease it, but it costs you more because you have to pay interest. You definitely have to pay interest. The leasing costs, the interest rates, when I looked them up last year, 2.4 to 3.6%.
Like with building costs, are you anticipating the cost for the vehicles a little that much higher?
So the average cost of increase, I don't have it here. The average cost has been 4 to 5% a year increase in cost for the same.
Right, but they're talking about now next, whenever they have that next increase, a greater increase just because it seems like the cost of materials, if the cost of gasoline is still up, so everything's plastic is going to be more expensive. I don't know how much plastic.
Aluminum is more expensive because it comes from Canada and things like that. And with the new trade agreements and things like that, some things are just more expensive. Some things you can't get. There's a lot of, as you may know, there's a lot more computer things that control newer vehicles, and getting chips to put, that can control all these things are getting hard to get. So I think those line items there kind of justify why we should be purchasing a new engine now rather than putting it in. It just makes financial sense.
And what's the mileage on that one?
120,000. This is engine one,
The year was,
That was what was it?
2006.
So you're 14 years old. 15,
16.
18.
By the time you get it.
Yeah, and then it's a year from the time you order it to the time you get it. I still don't have a delivery date of the one that we ordered last year.
Can you try to get that? Might be another question that would be.
Yeah, I asked him the other day, and he says, "Oh, I'll work on it."
Yeah, just let them know we're trying to have that available just in case for our district meeting, because I'm willing to bet that's another potential question to come up.
So our contract, the contract we signed with them, it can't be any later than October. But hopefully, I would like to have it in service sometime in October. Hopefully, it'll come sooner than that.
the other thing. I know you got some records and it goes back, how many years did you go back? Starting,
On repairs and maintenance fees, I went back to 2017.
Which was about 240,000 that was put into it since then, based on what I just did.
Well, all I'm saying is, we're gonna buy something brand new. I hope we keep a record of it from the day we bought it, how much you put into it every year.
I have a record from all our vehicles, how much we put into them.
From the day they were purchased?
Yes,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
I have to look at it year by year. I don't have it like in
I know.
one place to look at, but I have the ability to find out that information. The next thing I have is about the new ambulance. Delaying the acquisition of a new ambulance by 1 year will cost the district an additional $17,000. That $17,000 is $11,000 in an increase of the cost of an ambulance from $285,000 to $296,000.
How much is it? 11,000 is the increase?
Yep. Increase in price, that's a 3.8% increase in the ambulance cost per year for new ambulances. That's what the average has been over the last 5 years. And you'll save an additional $6,000 in maintenance and repairs. Ambulance 2 costs $1.03 for every mile we drive it in maintenance and repairs, not counting fuel. A new ambulance costs,
Hold on.
You send those to us as well?
yeah.
Yeah.
A new ambulance costs 4 cents per mile in maintenance and repairs.
In all reality, ambulance two is going to be used more now, so we have the ability to get it out even more, so we're going to conquer more and other things.
The current cost of A1, which is coming up on 5 years old now, is 22 cents per mile driven. That's still only, it's less than a quarter of what A2 costs.
There's a,
They're up on the next day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Material that they had, that's pretty specific. Pretty expensive. Just for the water.
Ron?
yeah, it's got,
All right.
I think it goes back.
When we get a new ambulance, we use the new ambulance as the primary response ambulance, and then we take the older ambulance and use it as the secondary or backup ambulance. Our primary ambulances do 75% of the call volume, and that averages about 18,000 miles a year. Our backup ambulances do 25% of the call volume, and about 6,000 miles.
You see that, the mileage, you see that going up now?
So, yeah, with our ability to get this ambulance out more, that is going to go up. But this is from historical data, right? I really can't predict exact figures. I don't know what it's going to be yet.
Well,
Give me a year.
is it, I mean, is it possible that you can get a 2-week or 3-week sampling of how much it went out more in the 3 weeks versus last year?
I'll look at that.
Just an example of a.
Yeah, a quick example of 1 month.
Yeah.
So I'll look at it.
I mean, it's not a huge test sample, but it's something. I mean, I was noticing here that, you know, there hasn't been a recall coverage since the 25th of February. That's pretty good.
Is it possible to have our ambulance that would make, so A2 is the one being replaced?
Yes.
Or, okay,
This one.
The Chevy.
yeah. So is it possible to have A1 there that night?
Yeah.
And have A2 is, just so that when people are asking, they can get an understanding of what we're looking at for an ambulance, since you're matching that one precisely.
I have a picture of A1 that I can put in the PowerPoint too if you want.
Just something like that, just so that they can see what we're trying, the reason we're trying to do that. I don't know if that's going to be good or bad, it's just a thought that's coming to mind of marketing.
What, the one that we're replacing you have there, or have the one?
What we're going to be
I
buying.
have both of them
Well,
They're
now
gonna be
it's
on
stripping
calls.
people out.
Yeah, but this way they know what they're buying.
there.
They're buying another one of these.
Yeah, I have a good picture of A1. And for the engine one, I can put in a PowerPoint slide showing, the engineering drawing that I have
That we
in the
had last
office.
time,
I
yeah.
can turn that into a PowerPoint slide and throw that in there if you want.
Because that way you can talk about it matching and how that does true working. It does help to have the matching equipment and all that stuff. It's just talking towards that as well. Because otherwise people, because I'm one of them, that would say, why don't you buy a cheaper ambulance that's a cookie cutter, but things will be in a different location, things like that. So I see it from both sides of the
That's what
coin.
someone's gonna say, is there's cheaper ambulances out there.
Yeah, Kevin.
I was trying
They're going to say there's
to-
cheaper engines out there too, which there are. But one of the things that we talk about with the engines is we have to make it fit into our current stationary plan, which is why we're paying what we're paying, because we're restricted in such a small shoebox we're trying to stuff it into.
Okay, let's move on. Review the minutes, February 2nd, 2021.
You guys are gonna do minutes and reviews? I'm gonna go put wood and stuff.
No, we're still in the middle of everything. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
So I did not read those in advance. That's one thing I did not get to.
What?
of the other stuff I did get to, so.
I gotta find it. Did you send it?
Is it her?
Oh, wait, no, sorry, yeah.
Beth sent them.
Oh, that's right, I thought it was right. Refer the,
It's E. Jocelyn.
what? The job?
E.
He was in,
Or do we want to table him for next time?
No,
I got it.
No.
Okay. Yeah, it's kind of nice. I think everything back and just keep on back. I don't have time.
We're not gonna get to it.
I'm just trying to figure out how we, oh, I'm reading the wrong.
February 2nd.
I understand that, I was looking for March 15th, like, how the hell do we have minutes for March 15th?
Copy of the responses, so you can.
Sorry.
Thank you.
All right, that's what you can respond, that's what you.
Oh, okay, yeah.
See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
See you
Do
later.
you know what day she sent it? Did someone have that?
Let me see if I can find it.
Have a nice day.
Beth, Jocelyn, 131, sent on 120.
February 2nd.
February 2nd.
I'm not seeing
Oh, of course. Sorry, Outlook is frozen. I know. That's annoying. No, that one won't close. It's possible, but
Yeah, the last one I'm seeing from her is January 20th.
Control of the process.
yeah, I know. No one can do it though. There we go.
Agreement, agreement, Tnfd commissioner. I got agenda. Oh, here we go.
You found it?
Oh, wait, no, this one's not people.
All right, so let me see.
No, that's for planning board, sorry.
Evidently she did not send them
I
out.
thought you did, I thought I read something.
Well, I have one from 131.
Maybe that's the one.
That's the one. I apologize. I thought she had done
So
it.
we'll table it till next time.
Make a motion to table the minutes.
Table the minutes.
Now we have to go in non-public, guys.
What? You got a few? Yep.
So let me,
I have to go.
go ahead.
Oh, he has to shut stuff
I
off.
have to shut stuff off. Oh, wait a minute, we have to.
I'll make a motion to go in non-public for RSA 91-A:3, 2C.
Second,
We move second, roll call,
John Sully.
Folger.
Eric Kyra, yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, John Sully, yes. Sorry about that. I saw why you hesitated.
Okay, it's 8:16, let me shut stuff off.
Now you can move on.
Stop,
Top,
stop.
well, it's not on.
Yeah, it is.
You
Can
running
I-
out of time, or-
Can I still do that?
We can do that.
Maybe it's because of the COVID.
Seal the minutes?
Okay, go for it.
Make a motion to seal the minutes of the
No,
non-public.
no, you have to come out.
Come back
Make a
to
motion
it.
that we come out of non-public session. At 8:22.
Roll call,
John Sully, yes.
Folger, yes.
Eric Kyra, yes. Make a motion to seal the minutes of the non-public session. But we don't have to make it.
We don't do that.
We've never sealed them.
Yeah.
Okay,
No.
No.
all right, withdraw.
All right.
Make a motion to adjourn.
At 8:24.
Who seconds it?
I'll second it. All those in favor?
John Sully, yes.
Aye.
Eric Kyra, yes.
Great.
Thank you, gentlemen. I'll get that stuff out to you tomorrow.
And that, my friends,
You can have all week to look at it.
It was